Hello, all you lonely marooned radio voices out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. We'll keep you company.
Or are we the voices over the radio?
Oh my gosh, are we the ghost voices from the past? Spoiler.
Yes, if you started this episode before watching the episode of Deep Space Nine, then you made a terrible mistake.
This was an unfortunate time for you to tune in.
Yeah.
This is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast in the universe. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello's Data.
Hey.
Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 6, Episode 25, The Sound of Her Voice. Alternate title, Ghost on the Phone. Spoiler.
Is spoiler part of the title?
Yes.
Because if you're watching the very beginning of the episode and it's called Ghost on the Phone Spoiler, you're like, oh, okay.
We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, and have already discussed some.
Yep.
But not after this episode. So it is safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek Deep Space Nine, unless you started this episode without watching the episode first, then that's unfortunate.
Too late now.
But we also sometimes spoil other stuff, so just, watch out. Ghost on the Phone, or whatever it's called, originally aired June 10th, 1998. It was written by Ronald D. Moore, story by Pam Pietroforte, and directed by Vinrik Kolba.
Vinrik Kolba.
How do you say it, Kate Mulgrew?
Vinrik Kolba.
Oh, thank you.
Nice. This is the second Pam Pietroforte episode story.
The name
also
sounds
the
familiar.
last.
Oh.
So, yeah, she was an intern on the series, and she wrote this story and the story for Statistical Probabilities.
Ah, okay. And, Ronald D. Moore, Vinrik Kolba, we know these guys.
Yep, they both will do more in Deep Space Nine. Spoiler. Actually,
Vinrik Kolba, I think a little bit more known for Voyager, but...
Yeah. Although he has 18 episodes of Voyager and 13 of Deep Space Nine, so it's not that big a difference.
Which is funny, because I could have sworn this was a Voyager episode, but...
It seems like a Voyager sort of thing. Sure, I could see that. There's actually only 2 more episodes of this series that Vinrik Kolba will do, so I guess stay tuned in for those at some point.
Yeah.
Probably next season, since...
Since we're at the next to last episode already.
Yeah.
I hate saying the word penultimate. It's one of my least favorite words.
Oh my gosh, I love the word penultimate, especially because, so many people are like, what? What's that?
I feel like everybody uses the word penultimate.
Eh.
And they all think it sounds fancy. But if you say anti-penultimate...
I was about to say, you say the one before that, yeah.
Then I can get... Or anti-anti-penultimate. Or pre-anti-penultimate. Or whatever you call it. I can get on board with those things. But... Or do you, circle back around and be like, pen pre-anti-penultimate? Or something.
Pre-anti-penultimate. Is apparently a word. Let's see. What does this mean? Pre-anti-penultimate, first attested in 1825, compared to later pre-anti-penult, of or pertaining to, or that is the last syllable but 4/5th. Wait, 4/5th? That's not right. Syllable from the last of a word or utterance. So, specifically, the 4th or 5th to last syllable in a word.
Well, that's...
Or relating to that.
When it's penult, right?
Interesting. No, yeah, it's just... I feel like you could use this in to mean other 4th or 5th to last ones, but
right.
The last syllable but 4/5th syllable from the last. A word or other utterances pre-anti-penultimate syllable. So yeah, that usage, it doesn't have to be a syllable.
Yeah. I guess just, it's probably such a rarely used word. That was the only time it was ever actually used.
Yeah, probably.
And Sirach Lofton is in this episode, and Colm Meaney is in the episode.
Yeah, we're all back.
So the gang's all here for this.
I mean, like, Dax
episode.
gets a whole 5 seconds in the episode.
Right,
but-
exactly. Terry Farrell getting her residual, don't worry. But it's a busy day in Quark's bar, and Odo is on some kind of minor regulation crackdown. Today's target, Quark's new stools, which have no backs, a safety hazard.
It really does seem just so petty.
Also, the stools spin too fast or something, which creates a risk of vertigo. Quark tries to counter that the new stools make it easier to turn from drinking to ogling the Dabo girls, which I'm skeptical of, because it seemed pretty easy already.
Well, and I'm not sure why you think that is going to sway Odo, but
And he tries to disprove the vertigo claim by spinning Morn around in his chair really fast, which Morn tolerates with some possible confusion.
I mean, I don't know what things are like in the future, but I feel like spinning chairs being dangerous because they could cause vertigo is should not be a thing that the law is chiming in on, but maybe that's just my opinion, as a primitive human on Earth in the year 2025.
Yeah, I mean, there's no min of grit left, So Odo is about to move on to the code violations of the Dabo wheel, but Kira walks in and invites him to lunch at the Klingon restaurant, which is good to know is still around.
Yeah.
The Dabo wheel goes unfixed, setting the stage for disaster. So I assume the Dabo wheel is going to come off its axle and spin off and decapitate someone or something.
I don't know what's suddenly wrong with the Dabo wheel. Like, the new chairs just apparently gave him an in to start nitpicking all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But Quark gets a light bulb moment, which he discusses with Jake Sisko, who has just been lurking around watching and writing things on a pad.
Yeah, kind of creepy, frankly.
Yeah. You see, Odo is in love, and love is a distraction, and a distracted policeman is an opportunity, which I think is probably a Quark personal rule of acquisition.
I know, it feels like that should be in the rules. We don't really know what cops are like on Ferenginar, I guess.
True. I don't know if they really have cops other than the FCA.
You'd have to pay them to show up and stop a robbery at your house.
Yeah. Meanwhile, on the Defiant, the crew is heading home after successfully escorting Convoy PQ-1 to the Vegan system, presumably delivering much-needed supplies to the contact aliens.
Yeah, it's good to know that they're still involved.
Oh, yeah. But you go there and they keep appearing as your dad, and
it's a pain. I know
it gets really weird dealing with them. But I mean, they need supplies too, so
they need to, because the Dominion War is hard on everybody.
Yeah. Along for the ride is Cassidy, now convoy liaison officer, but apparently not enjoying all the paperwork, which she gripes to Ben about in the mess hall, much to his apparent annoyance.
Yeah, Sisko is just a jerk to her all episode for no reason that I can make out. I mean, there's a discussion between him and the voice slater about how she doesn't belong there. And I'm like, that literally makes no sense as being the reason that he's so bitchy.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well,
it's
so that this wise ghost voice can teach him a valuable lesson.
Yeah, it was just the writers we need Sisko to be a jerk who doesn't deserve a girlfriend in this episode. All right.
Also, I don't know why I thought they'd gotten married already, but because I was didn't they get married when they right before they evacuated the station or something? But I was no, I guess that was Ram and Lita.
Yeah, no.
So
Cassidy and Sisko not married, maybe never will be married, for all we know.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, I have no clue if they're ever going to get married or not, but wink.
I like the Vegan system entry on Memory Alpha is only the information from this episode, but then it says it's uncertain whether the Vegan system was associated with the star Vega, the planet Vega 9, or Vega Colony, all of which have been mentioned in other things.
Ah. No memory beta to clarify this?
Not really. No, I'm just looking at various things. The Vega Colony, one of Earth's earliest colonies. Comes up a lot in Enterprise and the original series, apparently.
Huh. I mean, I just assume it's the same as the Contact aliens, so...
But they didn't live in Vega. Vega is much too young for that.
Oh, true. But they put their thing in a polar orbit, or I don't know. Anyway, also a little fatigued by paperwork is Dr. Bashir, who Cassidy notes is not his usual loquacious self. Ben, quote, jokes that he likes him better this way, and Cassidy calls him out.
I mean...
Which I think this is a valid comment to make.
Yeah, I was about to say, I see her perspective of, I mean, that's kind of a mean thing to say, and but at the same time, I get where you're coming from, Ben.
Right. You know, I can arrange to have you spend more time with Dr. Bashir if you want.
Also, here's another, like, this character out of nowhere has this new quality that we've never seen before that's going to need to be addressed in this episode.
Yes, exactly. No, the writers are being really smart seeding this stuff for us, or something. Then Worf calls down from the bridge saying they're getting a distress call from the Rutharian sector. The signal's from a woman claiming that she is a Starfleet officer, the lone survivor of some sort of disaster that has left her stranded on an L-class planet. Remember, that's one less than M.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yep.
M or nothing.
Yeah. Give me M, please. Sisko asks how long it will take to get to her, and Worf says 6 days. So Sisko orders Worf to turn the ship around and head to the Rutharian sector. Is that my job? Says Worf. I mean, sure, yeah, I'll do that.
It's like, shouldn't you talk to the Khan? Apparently, that planet that Odo and Quark climbed up a mountain on was an L-class planet. So
yes, I think that is an important point of reference to keep in mind throughout as we go through this episode. Then Sisko tells Chief O'Brien to find a way to establish two-way communication so they can tell her heroes are on the way. The Chief smiles like, we're going to do something feel good. As he works on establishing communication, the Chief listens to the stranded woman's, whose name is Lisa's, stream of consciousness ramblings, telling Bashir it's starting to feel like she's talking to him. Bashir says whatever and leaves. And the voice on the radio begs for someone to respond to her and tell her everything will be okay. Back at Quark's, Odo inspects the new backed bar stools. Then Quark asks him if he's picked out a gift for Major Kira for this Saturday. What's this Saturday? Why, it's the 1-month anniversary of your first date, of course. Remember when that creepy, self-aware hologram hacked into the station's systems and conned you both into a romantic dinner where you thought Kira was a hologram? You need to celebrate the anniversary of that.
yeah.
Odo is skeptical of the concept of a 1-month anniversary gift, but Jake backs the play. So Odo immediately goes out to the promenade and starts gift shopping. Jake asks Quark what's up. Jake claims to be writing a crime novel and needs to do some research on nefarious characters. And who's more nefarious than you, Quark? You're the biggest scumbag I know.
I mean, basically, yeah.
Quark bristles a little bit and says that nefarious characters don't think of themselves as nefarious, which I'm not really sure about.
At the same time he's saying that, he's like, I basically am, though.
Right.
I get where you're coming from.
I mean, I bet plenty of people are just like, you know what, I'm pretty nefarious, and I've learned to be okay with that.
Maybe. I don't know. If there's any nefarious characters out there who are proud of your nefariosity, leave us a comment.
Yeah, if you're nefarious, let us know. We need to do research, like Jake.
For a book.
Right.
Wink.
I want to hear about some crimes that you guys have been committing.
You know, to get me all excited to
Right.
commit crimes of my own.
So, Quark says he'll let Jake tag along as long as he doesn't write anything and doesn't tell anything to his dad.
This is a fair stipulation.
Sure. Yeah. On the Defiant, O'Brien continues his work establishing communications with the stranded Lisa. Cassidy comes in and asks him if he's uncomfortable having her aboard. After all, she's a civilian on a military ship. No, says O'Brien. I mean, we pretty much let Garrick fly the ship whenever he wants. I'm not super concerned about you. Cassidy does not seem comforted by this answer. But right at that moment, the voice on the radio perks up and says she can hear the two of them talking. She's very excited.
Yeah, it's good that like O'Brien had like the transmit button pressed down this whole time, or we might never have known.
Yep. She says that she is Lisa Cusack, captain of the Olympia, coming home from an 8-year deep space exploration of the Beta Quadrant.
Yeah, I mean, how often do you hear about the Beta Quadrant, you know?
Exactly. Who knows what goes on over there?
So apparently the Olympia is the ship that traveled the furthest in the Beta Quadrant and explored it the most until what year's this episode set? This is
2374.
4?
Okay.
So their record would later be broken by the USS Titan under the command of William T. Riker in 2380.
So wait, which record is that?
The furthest distance traveled into the Beta Quadrant.
Ah, nice.
I'm not really sure where they're going in the Beta Quadrant exactly. A lot of it is occupied by like Klingons and Romulans. Like most of their empires are in the Beta Quadrant.
They're going past that. They're going deep.
Well, I'm like, so did you fly through Romulan space? I don't think that's allowed. Or maybe they're going around it. It's funny because like Voyager, at the end of the Voyager series, before they like jump home, they're kind of approaching the border of the Delta and Beta Quadrants. And if like their journey had continued, they would have met a bunch of new Beta Quadrant species.
I just think it's weird that they never look up the Olympia or Captain Cusack in their computers.
Oh my gosh, that bugged me so much. I'm like, so are you not gonna even maybe just to confirm that this person is who they say they are? Maybe look up, see like what's up with that ship. But I thought maybe like they just haven't reported in for a while. They're so far out, so it's weird. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. It's weird that there is no checking on this, which should have easily revealed what happened.
Yeah, I'm gonna call that the nitpick of the week. That's this is like we've seen this over and over and over again. This is just like standard procedure. Like they would have a picture of her pulled up, and like if it was next gen, Geordi would be in the holodeck with her, falling in love with her.
I mean, maybe you might even want to inform the loved ones of all of the dead officers on the ship that, what happened.
Right. It's like, you mean that ship that went missing 3 years ago? Yeah, we kind of assumed. Also, did they just not have access to news on the Olympia? Or, I don't know.
Hey, they were on an 8-year journey in the Delta, or in the Beta Quadrant, rather. You get out of range of this stuff.
So yeah, the Olympia fell into the classic trap. The computer beeped, and they went and investigated it, and it turned out to be one of them planets with an energy barrier. And when they tried to scan it, it shot Metreon radiation at them. And then Lisa got a face full of exploding console and wound up crashed on the planet and hiding out in a cave.
How many times has we're on our way home, but something went beep, like just come back to bite you? Like all the time.
I like this episode is we're on the way home and we're investigating a beep of someone who was on their way home. And
that's true, yeah.
A beep. Did you say L-class planet? Pipes in Dr. Bashir. Yep, and I've been giving myself 15 cc's of Triox every 4 hours, she says. She says she has 150 milliliters left. And since a milliliter is the same as a cc, Bashir does some quick math to determine that will last 40 hours at the current rate of consumption. So he advises reducing the dose to 8 cc's every 6 hours, which should last her 108 hours, or 4.5 days, with 6 cc's left over. Gotta make that Triox last as long as possible, because when it runs out, it's going to get really hard to breathe. That's why we saw Quark taking all those Triox injections as he and Odo climbed that mountain on an L-class planet.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of variance in L-class planets. There's a decent amount of variance among M-class planets, or Minshara, as the M stands for. So maybe, although I guess he doesn't ask any specifics
Right.
about this one. He's just like, it is L class, and thus.
Right. Maybe that's just like a worst case scenario L class, and you want to take your triox just in case.
Could be.
And in this case, it turns out to be needed. I don't know. Anyway, Lisa is really bored and lonely, so she asks someone to stay on the line and talk to her and keep her company. Cisco volunteers to go first and says, "A lot has happened since you left." So, I guess he has to fill her in on 8 years of... I guess, and this whole time, he never mentions any dates when he's talking to her. But, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 8 years... yeah, okay.
Like, at some point you'd be... And then, in last year, 2373, she'd be like, wait a second. This isn't right. And
I guess we would have... So, okay. If they think that 8 years from now is when they left, then that would have been 2368.
6, because it's
74. No, 66. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, 66. So, what happens in 2366? You're going to have to catch them up on... that's when the Defiant began development. So, Cisco was working out there. He's like, oh, yeah, it was so fun developing this new class of ship. Dr. Beverly Crusher returned to the Enterprise D. So, you gotta catch her up on what the Enterprise was up to for the last 5 seasons or whatever. And then, Data created Law and all, there's all sorts of good stuff that she needs to find out about.
She wants to know all about everything that was happening on the Enterprise.
He's like, oh, you weren't even here for, like, when Captain Picard turned into a Borg and attacked Earth. Oh, that's a story.
Cisco gives Lisa a detailed history of the war. Again, apparently just never mentioning dates, which she finds less than stimulating. Or maybe he mentioned dates and she just wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, maybe.
So she changes the subject and asks if there's a Mrs. Cisco. Ben says that he's dating Cassidy, but Lisa picks up that there's some trouble. She starts telling him the funny story about the Andorian civilian she dated for 6 years. And what a fun story I'm sure that was, if we would have heard it.
Apparently, this episode is the first mention that the Andorians can move their antennae around, depending on their mood.
Oh. What a landmark for Star Trek.
Which is funny, because I've also just... So, like, last week or so, I realized there's a lot of Star Trek that I just never watched. So I found, like, a good chronological guide, and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to watch it all. Straight through. Oh. Except for maybe the JJ verse, because I don't care about that. I mean, I have seen those movies already, so that's fine. But anyway, so I started with Enterprise, which I think I watched most of season 1 when it first came out. But there's a lot happening that I don't remember, including the, Andorians appearing and their antennae totally move around. It's true.
All right, so continuity. All right. At first I was going to be like, you didn't start with Discovery? Then I remember it's like, oh yeah, Enterprise is even before that, isn't it?
Yes, and this order has lots of interesting stuff. Like, some episodes of Enterprise get left away later, and then it starts with like a couple seasons of Discovery, and then you go to Strange New Worlds, and you come back to Discovery like towards the end.
Wow.
I don't know that much about Discovery, but so I've never seen any Discovery or any of the animated series or several episodes of the original series I've also never seen. So I'm like, here we go. We're going to watch all this stuff.
I did just, when I was watching this episode, I got an unskippable ad for the Section 31 show.
Yeah.
Or
is it a movie? I thought it was a movie.
Oh, whatever it is. I got an ad for it.
I was not impressed by the trailer for that, and I was like, man, I may hate this, honestly, just based on the trailer.
It just doesn't have a very Star Trek-y vibe, in my opinion.
No.
But so meanwhile, Odo shows Quark the gift he picked out for Kira, a pretty necklace. Quark says, "That's great. What kind of big night do you have planned?" And Odo's like, "Dang it, I have to have plans too?
We have to do something? Ugh."
Quark offers to let him look through his collection of holosuite programs. What better way to commemorate the time you thought she was a hologram than by taking her to the holosuite? Quark lays it on thick, saying, "Isn't true love worth celebrating?" And Odo buys it and goes off to sample the holosuite. Quark is pleased. With Odo busy on Saturday night, the door is open for all kinds of nefarious, business dealings. Jake points out that Odo has deputies. Do I have to remind you of a little someone named Jones?
Oh my gosh, Jones.
Jones is going to be on the case. You better believe that.
He caught Chief O'Brien, he can catch you.
Yeah, trust me. But he's like, no, Jones, fuck Jones. I'm going to be rich with all the nefarious money I'm about to make. Business money. Back on Mission Rescue, it's Bashir's turn to talk to Lisa. But he's not interested and just mm-hms along with her story while he works. But then suddenly Lisa sees something. Oh no, it's coming closer. No, she screams. And the comms go silent. Captain Lisa Cusack is dead. Spoiler. No, when we come back from commercial...
it is a spoiler, yeah.
When we come back from commercial, a sinister-sounding voice comes on the comms. I have eaten her, it says. Bashir is horrified. We will get revenge. Bridge, launch quantum torpedoes at the planet. Kill everything. No, of course it was a joke by Lisa to punish Bashir for not listening to her story. About how both of her sisters were teachers or whatever.
Important. Why is he even doing this if... I guess Cisco just said everybody has to take a turn. I'm disappointed we don't get to see any of Worf's turns.
Yeah, that seems like a real missed opportunity. Mm. But Bashir takes the lesson and apologizes, assuring her she has his complete attention. But she's tired of talking and asks Bashir about himself. Bad move, Lisa. Bashir lets fly his favorite fact about himself, that he graduated second in his class. And the poor soul takes the bait. So she's in for a time.
Yeah, she's going to hear about that pre-ganglionic nerve and post-ganglionic fiber or whatever.
She's going to hear all about it. Meanwhile, Quark wraps up a phone call with a nefarious-looking Nausicaan. Well, I think that's a Nausicaan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a Nausicaan.
To whom he is going to sell some high-quality crystals, which I assume means meth.
I was going to say, once again, spoiler for parts we haven't gotten to yet, Odo eventually lets him get away with this. And so I was like, so is the stuff he's selling not that bad? Are you like, oh yeah, it's one of those things. It's like Cuban cigars. There's just this political ban on them. Or
there's an embargo on wherever these crystals come from.
Or is he selling explosives to this? I don't know.
I'm going to stick with my meth theory. Because these are quality crystals. Quark hangs up just in time for Odo to come down from the holosuite with his program selection. Paris, 1928. Give me 4 hours on Sunday night. You mean Saturday, says Quark. No, I remembered what actually happened on our first date, and so I decided to celebrate the anniversary of our first kiss instead. Remember that weird, awkward kiss on the promenade after the big fight when everybody was watching?
Yep. Good time.
That's what I want to commemorate.
much more memorable, or in a good way, I guess.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe Kira and Odo can just not do anniversaries. But Quark panics and tries to get his meth buyer back on the phone. But he's already changed his number. Jake says no big deal. When he gets to the station, just tell him he'll have to wait a day. But Quark says no, as soon as that dude steps foot on the station, Odo is going to arrest him. And that guy is not good at standing up to interrogation. He'll rat me out in 5 minutes. It looks like this is the end for Quark.
Oh well, he had a good run.
Yeah. All his life of crime is finally about to catch up with him. Then it's Miles' turn to talk to Lisa. He lies in his bunk and spills his guts about his feelings about going to the war for the second time in his life, and how it's made him closed off and afraid to get attached to people. They agree about their dislike of Ship's counselors, but she cleverly points out to him that you can't go around unloading this stuff on your friends or wife or random person stranded on an L-class planet. So maybe the counselor is the person to talk to.
Yeah, it's a shame that they don't have and never will have one of those on Deep Space Nine.
No, don't they have Counselor What's-His-Face?
Oh, right. I totally forgot about Counselor Who's-Its. That was mentioned that 2 times. Right. And that O'Brien actually had to go see.
Right.
Yeah, apparently he doesn't like that guy. Maybe that's... I was like, geez, man, just burn on Troy.
Uh-huh.
Your
Well,
former
that's why
ship's
they threw
counselor.
in, he personally likes some of them.
Yeah, right,
But
yeah.
he doesn't respect their profession.
So
Or something.
some more like character qualities that have never existed before and will never come up again.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I think if anybody understands the value of, like, therapy, it's the chief, with all the stuff he's got.
All the times he's had to go to therapy, yeah, maybe.
Right. But then Bashir cuts in and is like, okay, it's my turn to have a boring conversation with Lisa. And so they chit-chat for a while before Lisa casually brings up that her last Triox injection didn't do anything. Julian figures that her last vial was tainted. She's out of Triox, and she has only 2 days left.
I guess it's good that tainted Triox doesn't, like, kill you or something.
Yeah, just doesn't do it. It just kind of, like, expired.
Yeah. There's a note in here. Lisa Cusack is played by Deborah Wilson, and when auditioning women for the role, the producers never saw any of the auditions. They just listened to audio recordings.
Ah, nice.
And during the filming, director Vinrich Kolbe didn't allow Deborah Wilson to meet any of the regular cast until after filming was complete. To get that reality in there.
You know, I feel like maybe that was not a good call, because she just sounds like, to me, she just sounds like she's reading lines the whole time. But
interesting. I didn't get that feeling, but okay.
I don't know. That's just what I felt like. But so yeah, she's only got 2 days to live. Captain Sisko's like, well, that's not good. We're still 3 days away. 3 is more than 2.
Yeah, let me do the math here. Nothing. Carry the nothing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. O'Brien figures they can make it if they drain the phaser reserves. Worf jumps in and says he thinks that's a bad idea, falling back into the classic Worf role. But as usual, he's ignored and they do it anyway.
But what if we need to shoot something? Yeah, the Dominion's not around here.
Well, it's the phaser reserves, so presumably they still have the phaser primaries or whatever.
But what if we need to shoot a lot of things? So, random interesting story about Pam Pietro Forte's original idea for the episode.
Oh, good. Is it one of those?
Yeah. It's not like that. Well, you'll see. So, the original idea is Sisko is like tinkering around with a subspace radio and accidentally picks up a transmission from a woman in 1940. Over time, they develop a relationship, although she doesn't know he's from the future, and eventually they fall in love. As Ronald D. Moore explains, it became a sweet, interesting story, but none of us could quite get a handle on how to make it work. Sisko was already involved with Cassidy, which complicated it, and we never found a way to do it.
They couldn't have, like, Ben and Cassidy break up or take a break for one episode or something like that?
I mean, I feel like we haven't seen her in forever. You would almost forget that, she and he were still an item.
Yeah.
It could be somebody other than Sisko. Like,
true.
Bashir could have that story. He's always fallen in love with people.
Yeah, that really does sound a little bit more like a Bashir story, except for the intolerable nature of Bashir's romances.
I mean, the fact that he's lying to a woman from 1940 and falling in love with her without ever, like, revealing that he knows that she's existing hundreds of years in the past, that kind of lines up with the kind of thing Bashir would do.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, maybe. So, then Cassidy comes up to the bridge to see what's going on, and Sisko is very curt with her and brushes her off. Later, he discusses this with Lisa, and Lisa's advice is that Sisko needs a separation between his personal and professional life. Also, the fact that your wife was a civilian on a Starfleet ship and she wound up getting killed might be a connection worth probing.
Yeah, see, there's it's like you point out, especially he's in the middle of a war now.
Uh-huh.
So here's like something they could have brought in the story to actually make this make sense. They didn't.
Right. I think they forgot.
Yeah.
I mean, Lisa's not a professional counselor. I think a professional counselor might have gotten to the bottom of this a little faster. Back on Deep Space Nine, Quark shows Jake his box full of meth crystals, which he figures he'll never be able to sell now. And after he helped Odo find true love, He was Odo's unwilling confidant all those years of the Kira drama. And Odo still never solved the case of that missing shipment that one time.
All I asked in return was to be able to commit some crimes. Is that so much?
But Odo's still the same petty tyrant as always. Always trying to throw Quark in jail. Quark walks out of the cargo bay dejected, with Jake in tow. When they're gone, one of the barrels in the cargo bay morphs into Odo, who looks thoughtful.
I hope you're being thoughtful about how petty that barstool thing was.
Yeah. He should be like, look, okay, I'll let the barstool thing go, but the meth thing is not okay. So Saturday night comes around, Quark pours drinks for himself and Jake and awaits the inevitable. Then Odo and Kira walk in, dressed to the 1920s nines. And Odo says they decided to have their date on Saturday after all. Quark is thrilled. Not only is he going to sell his meth, but he actually got one over on Odo.
Oh, hold on. There's a great... From that scene where Quark is all sad and upset, there's a deleted or unfilmed portion of that conversation, and there's several things that like Quark says in here. So hold on. So he recalls that time he almost made a fortune overcharging Wayun during the Dominion occupation, and the time he almost made a fortune helping the Grand Nagus regain his throne, and that time he almost found 1,000 bricks of gold-pressed latinum before I realized they were in Morn's stomach. Which, man, you're revealing that, jeez.
Right.
Quark continues to look negatively back at the recent events of his life, telling Jake, let me tell you something about the war. Everyone's had a victory in this conflict except me. And Jake's like, well, but what about that time you rescued your mom from the Dominion? And he's like, yeah, and then she went and destroyed the entire fabric of Ferengi society, so that's not a victory. And in the end, he tells Jake, I'm cursed. That's what it is. I should change the name of my bar to Cursed Quarks. I wonder how much it would cost to redo the signs.
I mean, whatever happened to that Morn throw-up that he got that one time?
He probably invested it in, like beetle
yeah.
snuff farms or something.
Yeah, space crypto or something.
Almost certainly space crypto, yeah.
Because that was like... So he's going to make 100 or 200 bars off of this deal. Is that what he said?
Yes.
And that throw-up was worth like 100 bricks, wasn't it?
Yes.
So
and bricks are more than bars.
Right. So, but yeah, up above, Kira asks Odo if he's sure he wants to let Quark get away with this. I mean, we're going to be having tweakers all over the promenade. But Odo says, I'll let him have this one, and they go off to their date.
Yep, I'll let him commit this crime, I suppose.
Right. The Defiant arrives at the mysterious planet, and Bashir reports that Lisa has lost consciousness, and they have 45 minutes to go get her. O'Brien reports that they can't get close with their warp core because of all the Metreon radiation, but they could maybe get down there with a shuttle pod. Worf says it's unlikely that a shuttle pod would make it through the barrier, but Sisko's like, if we load it up with enough main characters, we'll probably be fine.
Yeah, so true. I just love, he's like, unlikely doesn't mean, impossible. I'll take those odds, whatever they might be.
Right. Yeah, and they hit a little turbulence and they're fine.
This is the only episode that shows the Defiant shuttle bay, apparently.
Huh. So they take the shuttle pod down to the planet with no major issues. They can find no life signs, but they do find the crash site. They're down to 20 minutes to find Lisa and get her in the shuttle. They set down and enter the cave set. Soon, they find a body, but a really old-looking one, in the old-style TNG uniform. Dead for 3 years, from carbon dioxide poisoning, says Bashir. Aw, crap, says O'Brien. It must be some kind of time shenanigans.
So, based on the start date, and how long ago it says that she died and all that, the wiki calls out the USS Olympia's departure for the Beta Quadrant mission would have been like 2363 or start date 40759.5, about 3 months before Picard took over the Enterprise D.
Okay.
And Cusack's death would have been around 2371, the year the Dominion was discovered by the Alpha and Beta Quadrant powers in Deep Space Nine Season 3. Also the year the Caretaker flung Voyager to the other side of the galaxy. and the year the Enterprise D's crew saved Viridian 4 from destruction but lost their ship to the Duras sisters. I don't know why it needs to call all that out specifically, but I thought it was fun.
Nice. But so, yeah, they're all like, well, this sucks. What do we do now? So they take the body back to Deep Space Nine for a proper burial. Dax, as we mentioned, shows up for one scene to explain to Worf the concept of an Irish wake. Ben goes to Cassidy and says, we should have a talk later. She asks if it's about her, and he says, no, it's about me.
As all important things are.
I don't like you, and I don't want to go out with you anymore. Or something, I assume.
Yeah, we never get to see what he actually says, so...
Right. Bashir gets up and makes a speech about Lisa, how Lisa made him realize how important friends are, and you need to tell them that even when you're busy with your work. O'Brien makes a speech about how the war has made them more distant from each other, and Lisa made him realize they need to hold each other close, because someday one of us won't be here anymore, and we'll need to mourn together. Someday.
And after he says someone's going to be missing from this circle, the camera immediately cuts to Worf and Dax, so Worf might be in trouble.
Oh no.
It's just like if you're watching Serenity, here's some spoilers for Serenity. They go to the planet Miranda, and at one point Jane's like, no, she's right. There's like all these people here and they're all dead for no reason. And just as he says dead for no reason, the camera like pans on to Wash and like zooms in.
Oh my gosh. So subtle foreshadowing? They wouldn't kill off a main character on Deep Space Nine, would they?
On an unrelated note, Terry Farrell's appearance in this episode is very brief, it says, because she was given some time off by the executives to do some auditions.
Okay.
So maybe she's going to, kickstart her movie career also.
Yeah, that sounds unrelated.
Call me.
Yeah. Interesting note. Kind of weird that you mentioned it in this context, but so, yep. So, yeah, someday somebody could be gone. Could be a year from now, could be next episode, but someday. Everybody agrees and toasts the wonderful Lisa Cusack. No mention is ever made about all the other people who died on that ship.
Nope. Nobody cares about them.
Right.
Also, probably not more than a year from now, because that's when the show ends, so...
True.
I mean, it could still happen. We just wouldn't care or see.
Right. I mean, we don't know. There could be a flash forward to...
true.
1,000 years from now, so...
An Irish wake for, Nog is happening. What a guy he was.
R.I.P. Nog.
Rule of Acquisition 285 referenced in this episode. No good deed ever goes unpunished.
Oh, yeah.
A rule first written in the Legends of the Ferengi book.
Nice. So some book continuity there, I guess.
Yeah. Let's see what else is in here. Okay, so as far as how people felt about the episode, Vinrich Kolba is very proud of it and says, so here's how he talks about what he was going for this episode. He says, how do you see the moon? You see it because something else, the sun, puts out light that illuminates it. And in the sound of her voice, a voice illuminates the characters on the Defiant. They go into themselves and bring out their own problems, their own baggage, and present them to the other person, so we see their reflections. To me, that's fascinating. It was a very deeply psychological show, because the characters don't know the person they're talking to. I wanted them to bare their souls, to have them tell us their inner feelings through this device of talking to an unknown, unseen person.
Deep.
So, yeah, he's like, he's like, oh, you don't understand. This is like, how do you see the moon?
Or anything, I guess.
Well, that's true, yeah. On the other hand, Ira Bear and Ron Moore are disappointed with how the episode turned out, both feeling that it lacked a strong central crux. Bear said, it was an interesting idea. Originally, this woman was going to affect our people and help them figure out their lives, kind of like Vic Fontaine, but that got diluted a bit and never really made it through the script. And then Moore says, it's ironic, but when we watch the finished episode, it seems to us that the twist, that she was back in time, was just thrown in to make the ending different.
Right.
But that was the core concept of the pitch.
Yeah, the way the episode is now, it just seems just like a random sci-fi thing thrown in for no reason.
Well, I mean, if she was alive, then we'd have to talk to her.
Right. She'd be a real person, and we told her too many secrets.
Yes, she took those secrets to her grave.
She knew too much.
And the final note in here is a very similar premise was explored in the 1996 Outer Limits episode Worlds Apart, which co-starred Robert Ito. The 1982 French animated science fiction film Time Masters also dealt with a similar concept.
Huh.
Another antecedent, although it involved time shifting of images rather than sounds, is the story Light of Other Days from 1966 by Bob Shaw. And the 1987 movie 84 Charing Cross Road similarly explores a long-distance relationship between a wisecracking woman and the owner of a bookstore who dies before they finally meet.
What about that Dennis Quaid movie where the guy talks to his dead dad on the radio?
Wasn't that after this?
Oh, I don't know.
Hold on.
I feel like that was a long time ago.
Radio. The movie Frequency was from 2000. Is that
okay.
the one?
So, okay, maybe that got it from this. I don't know.
I mean, that was a long time ago, but not this long a long time ago.
Right. What about that Korean movie where the two people talk through a time mailbox?
The Lake House?
Yes.
The Korean film, I don't know how you say that, Il Mare, Kim Eun-ju is living in 1999, and Han Sung-hyun is living in 1997. That movie is also from 2000.
Oh, okay. So, never mind. I withdraw all my examples.
And The Lake House is from 2004. No, wait. Hold on. No, it's not. Based on the 2000 film Il Mare, this film was from 2006. So there you go. They all got that from Deep Space Nine.
I assume. Yeah.
I'm going to officially proclaim that now.
Right. I can't think of any other explanation.
No. Nothing else could possibly have happened. But this 84 Charing Cross Road movie sounds depressing.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, it's just like, it didn't sound like it was even like science fiction-y. They're not like talking back and forth in time. They just have a long-distance relationship and then he dies before they get to meet.
That is sad.
Starring Anne Bancroft, Anthony Hopkins, Judi Dench.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Executive produced by Mel Brooks because he's Bancroft's husband.
Oh, all-star.
Oh, yeah, okay. So, yeah, they have a long-distance relationship and then he dies and she doesn't even make it to visit like where his bookshop was until 2 years later.
Oh,
interesting. Okay, well, all right. So, review.
All right.
There's only one more note, and it's about the title. So
Sure.
We'll get there when we do title review. So, what do you think of The Sound of Her Voice?
Okay. Well, here's the notes I have written down.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So first, addressing the Lisa Cusack story. Really annoying to watch when you already know the ending. And I imagine it's not even much better when you don't know the ending. Like I said, I think that ending is pretty much pointless and adds nothing. For me, the emotional bond with Lisa does not click at all. So overall, I found that whole story kind of boring and pointless. And like you kept pointing out, these character traits never existed before, so it feels kind of false in that sense. But I do find the Quark and Odo story mildly entertaining.
Sure.
So I think, I've been having this personal little complaint inside myself that with all the stuff Odo and Quark have gone through, Odo is still like giving Quark so much grief. So we never really got to see a payoff to their evolving relationship. And this kind of shines a light on that nicely. I think it kind of fits because they're not the kind of people who can be true friends, but I think it's just a good compromise that Odo can cut him some slack every once in a while. So with that together, I think if it was just the Lisa Cusack story, I would give it a lieutenant junior grade, but I'm going to move the episode up to a high lieutenant.
Oh, okay.
So still overall below the line, but, watchable, I think, for the Quark and Odo stuff. And I think Armin Sharman does some fun stuff in the episode. And Jake Sisko, I think, is fun in this episode, too. as just
Yeah.
he's just like watching, being like, "Oh, now what you doing?" So
Quark needed someone to explain things to. So
right, it's why Robin was invented. So anyway, what do you think?
So I feel like we've been on a run now of just episodes that I don't like. And this one is definitely not like as bad as the last one, which, you know, it's not in competition for least favorite of the series or anything, but it's just like, it's not good. The thing that stands out to me most is, like I've pointed out, there's just like, here's all of these like negative things created in our characters specifically for this episode and never addressed before or after, when you could easily have done actual things that the characters have going on. You know, like Sisko's got all this guilt about like the things that he's doing to win this war.
Oh yeah.
And he's conflicted about that. Bashir, you could have gone the opposite. Like Bashir's problem has never been that he's not talkative or doesn't pay attention to people, really. Like, that's not Bashir at all. But she could have like cut through like this nice happy guy face that he puts on and like cut to the root of like some of his problems, because we've seen that like underneath he's like unhappy about a lot of things.
Sure.
Like relationship wise and in other ways. You could have even brought back, like, he could have been like marinating over the thing that with Quark, the Dax thing.
Sure.
There's all sorts of legitimate things.
Right. Or just like people always expect him to keep up the happy face, and
yeah,
it's kind of wearing on him or something like that.
And like she could spot that, even though, you know, she's just talking to him over the comms and never actually sees him. And that would show us like, oh, she's insightful to catch these things that like we have just even seen glimpses of ourselves and not gotten that deep into.
Yep.
So they could have written the script with legitimate things, and I think that's why the connection between her and them doesn't feel as real or as genuine as it could, is because she's like, oh, I spotted this clever observation about you or whatever, and it doesn't feel genuine because it's not a genuine character trait that they've ever shown that she's commenting on. So I feel like that undercuts the entire thing. You could have even had, it didn't even have to be our main characters. This could have been like a lower decks thing where like the lieutenants get the responsibility to have conversations with her, and you get a look into like the head of Jones or Jones is probably on the station, but you know,
right.
One of these recurring background Federation officers, and you find out like how deeply the war has affected them because they're the ones having these conversations with her or something. You know,
sure.
There's just all sorts of ways you could have made it work, and they didn't. And so, yeah, the Lisa story, I'm not a fan of at all. The Quark story, I like what they're going for there. And you're right that like Armin Shimmerman has some fun stuff. And I like him and Jake as a pairing that we don't see that often.
Yeah, that's true.
And I like that they're using Jake's writing as, you know, that's like his central purpose now. So using that as an in to make him interested in what other characters are doing and actually get him into the show again.
Yeah.
In new and interesting ways. I like all of that. I don't think it makes much sense that Odo lets him get away with crime. Odo could have done a lot of other things that wouldn't involve letting crimes happen. He could have apologized about the chairs and let him have the freaking stools and, you know, captured himself a Nausicaan, but like not busted Quark for, he could have easily been like, yeah, this Nausicaan was coming to buy these illegal crystals, but, yeah, something happened in the system. We have no idea who these boxes belong to, so, oh well, we're confiscating them. Like, instead, he chooses to, like, not do the one thing that he always, like, is at the core of his character. So it feels kind of disingenuous to me. I feel like you could have had Quark use his love for Kira to get away with a crime like Quark planned, and that would have been fine. it would have actually been interesting if Odo finds out later that it's like, oh my gosh, I really am distracted by like this. Things are happening that I'm not seeing. I have to think about what's going on. So you could have had him succeed, or if Odo finds out, you still have this Odo feels bad. Quark's right. He has like done a lot for me and I haven't really given him any slack at all. And so Odo cuts him some slack, but in a way that doesn't undermine his job by letting Quark sell meth or whatever, you know?
Uh-huh.
So it's a fun little B story. I just don't feel like it makes that much sense, I think, or I don't feel like it fits the characters as well as it could. But I will say that maybe it's just in comparison to the last 2 episodes that we've had, I don't hate this one. I just don't particularly like it. So it's going to be probably like a mid to high lieutenant for me also.
All right.
It's it's definitely below the line.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's kind of like, I do enjoy that Quark finishes the episode thinking he's genuinely beaten Odo at something.
That is fun.
So
give him that, yeah.
I think we just have to assume that these crystals are pretty much harmless. Like, they're like you said, some kind of dumb political reason that they're illegal or you can't smuggle them or something, or, import taxes haven't been paid, or I don't know.
Yeah, and apparently there's a book where Odo reveals, like, not long after this, that he's like, yeah, I knew about those crystals.
Oh, okay. So Quark doesn't even get to enjoy that for very long.
No, in fact, this says several days later, Odo revealed to Quark that he knew.
Man, that's mean. He's like, oh man, I just realized those crystals are actually really dangerous. I am going to need you to tell me who you sold those to.
Maybe Odo arranged to have like the Bajoran authorities pick up the Nausicaan after he left the station.
Oh yeah.
That would have worked too. Just some way that Odo is not like being flagrantly irresponsible at his job.
Yeah.
But even in Memory Beta, there's no description of what these crystals are supposed to do or be for or anything like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh well. So what about the title? What's your note on the title?
So the working title of the episode was "Voice in the Darkness." I don't know if that's particularly better or worse than the actual title. I think but as for the actual title, it's fine. Yeah. I mean, I think it's memorable in that if you say if you say that title, I know which episode you're talking about.
Sure.
And it's appropriate. I don't know that it's particularly clever, but right. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of anything better, but at the same time, it doesn't really wow me.
Yeah, right.
I feel like it's kind of bland.
You might have thought when you heard the title it was a Voyager episode, but you would have remembered kind of what the episode was.
How about like guiding voice or something like that?
Ghost voice. No, that's a spoiler.
It's a ghost the whole time. In parentheses, spoilers.
It's a ghost.
Space ghost.
No, that's a different thing. That's trademarked. Oh my gosh, that would be an episode. Like, they start getting a transmission, and it's like, Space Ghost, coast to coast.
It's like, where is this coming from?
Why does he have a giant praying mantis monster on his show? And then they become, like, addicted to the show. They're catching the new episode every night in the mess hall. Like, this is actually really interesting.
Nice. And then the Dominion is watching it, too, and that's how the war ends. Everybody's too busy watching Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's a fitting end to the series.
That would be a crossover no one ever expected, for sure.
Right. But anyway, got any final thoughts on this episode?
I would just say that this season has really ended on a whimper. We're about to go into the last episode, so maybe they'll kick it up a notch there. But it's like we're really fizzling out so far for the end of season 6, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. I was a little annoyed getting this attempt at an emotional episode right after the Molly O'Brien episode. But
yeah, that's a good point.
And
it's just like...
also just another time shenanigans episode. I'm really starting to get the impression like time is just not a very stable thing.
They're just falling into time holes all over the place. It's kind of,
Right.
and it's funny because the temporal Cold War is a big aspect of like early seasons of Enterprise also. So I just finished season 1 today, and it ends with like, spoiler, I guess. Archer gets pulled into the future, but then it turned like the future's all horrible because in pulling him out of his timeline, they changed history and everything like sucks. And the guy's like, Archer's like, well, just send me back. And they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, all of our stuff that sends people through time is gone now for some reason. Matt, you must have been really important, I guess.
Huh.
And so it's, I was reading something where apparently like the first 3 seasons of Enterprise do a lot of like time shenanigans. And when somebody new took over for the 4th season, it was just like, we're done with that. No more of this time stuff. We've gotten everything we're going to get out of that. Let's not.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I guess that's, we can call it there. So, that's our discussion of The Sound of Her Voice. Thanks for listening. If you like that one, maybe you'll like, let me think, more time shenanigans.
Past tense.
Sure.
The tribble one. I never remember
Oh, yeah.
which one is which when it comes to tribbles, but one of those.
Yeah, well, we summarized both of them in that episode.
Oh,
so.
that's true. Yeah, we did the multi. Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, go listen to that. That was fun. I had a lot of fun, like, sorting the 2 episodes into chronological order. So, but yeah, you can find that wherever you're listening to this. If you want us to leave a comment, you can do that on YouTube. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See you later.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, keep talking to that space ghost.